Welcome back to our Mini Data Bootcamp. I'm Emery, and as you might remember, we're working through 3 sets of skills: spreadsheet fundamentals, Excel dashboards, and Power BI dashboards. And these are the highlights from a longer data bootcamp that I led last month. We're working towards this type of dashboard in Excel and in Power BI, where we might have some maps and some graphs and some more graphs and some more graphs. And the user can interact with it or drill down using the slicers up here, and they could look at just one group at a time. These are nobody's real numbers, but it is inspired by a real project. And the inspiration for this project had participant data, class attendance data, survey data, and we needed to bring it all together in one central hub, one dashboard, and look at it by cohort like this. Okay, so let's keep going with some spreadsheet fundamentals. In the last video, you learned about some quick text editing skills like lower, upper, proper, trim, concatenate. In this video, we're going to talk about turning birth dates into ages and age ranges. And we're going to have to do it across a couple different steps because it is not super duper easy to take a birth date and fill it into, make an age category. The categories are something we might want to graph. Like over here on the dashboard, they show up like right here, okay? They fill into this population pyramid like that. We don't want to make a graph showing every single age, like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. That would be too in the weeds, okay? Do you get the purpose? It's like you're thinking forward to what might I want to graph, and then you think backwards to how do I have to recode my data in order to get that graph? It's like thinking forward, thinking backwards, thinking forwards, thinking backwards. Hence the point of this series and us being together so I can teach you some of those time savers. Okay, so let's delete everything I've got. I'm not going to delete the end of the fiscal year. I don't think. Yeah, I will. Let me teach you all this from scratch, okay? Oh, it's always so nerve-wracking. Like, do I really want to delete this? What if I forget it, even though I've taught it like a bajillion million times? So the first thing we need to do here is figure out our end date. A person born on this date, that's me, that's my birthday. How old are they as of when? And in the real data bootcamp last month, we used the end of the fiscal year as our, not 35, 25. We used the end of the fiscal year as our cutoff date because this was a grant making world and the nonprofits wanted to think like, okay, for my grant reports that are due, and we want to show what happened the whole fiscal year. That seemed like a natural end date. You could use the start of a fiscal year. You could use January 1st. You could use today's date. You have to have an end date though. You have to know like they're how old as of when, right? Because like age is changing every single day. So that's what goes in this first intermediary step. You'll notice a lot of intermediary steps because it is actually like not super easy and direct to go from a birth date to an age category. There are a lot of little, steps in between, okay? So you could use the end of the fiscal year date. If you wanted to use today's date, it would look like this. You type in equals today, open, close. Isn't that an interesting one? There's nothing inside. It looks so empty. It looks like, oh, am I missing something? No, it's enough. It tells you today's date. I'm recording this May 2nd, 2025. There's also now. In the spirit of teaching you as many of those 500 plus Excel functions as possible, you might as well learn these together. They're like a little family, a little batch, okay? So today gives you today's date. Now it'll give you a date at first because this cell was formatted as a date. But if you go up to the Home tab, to the number formatting section, you can use the little drop-down menu and it'll tell you the time. It is 3:47 p.m. And when you click on that cell a couple times, sometimes it'll actually like reload a little bit and it'll tell you, look, it like reloads. Isn't that fascinating? It like really drills down to the second. Most dashboards though, I make like the day is totally fine. Okay. So I'm going to not do today's date. I'm going to do the end of the fiscal year as my cutoff date though, to simulate that real life project. You can't tap. Look, if you tap, like you learned in the last video, it goes in order. It gives you a sequence of dates. So you have to copy, Control C, and then highlight all these cells, which are either going to be empty or filled in with the wrong dates, and then Control V, paste, right? Copy paste. Copy paste. Control C, Control V. Fill it in all the way down. What you need to know is it's not enough just to have birth dates. You have to also choose an end date. Okay, now let's figure out how many days old this person, me, how old they are. That's going to be just basic subtraction. Equals the end date minus the start date, the birth date, okay? Notice that I didn't type in Q6, D6 by hand. I just clicked on those cells and Excel transformed it into the cell reference. I am 14,000 days old. Okay, tap, tap. The next step is let's turn that into years. Equals days divided by 365. The divided by is just the slash, okay? There's plus, minus, divide. There is multiply is the little star. There is exponent, the little caret, okay? There's parentheses for order of operations. Now you know 5 or 6 more Excel things. But in this case, we're doing divide. Days old divided by 365. I will be, as of that date, 39.92 years old. Tap, tap. Okay, so let's do some rounding because maybe my 6-year-old is like, I'm 6.5. But after age 6 or 7 or whatever, I don't think of myself as I'm going to be 39.92 years old. No, I think about I'm 39. Okay, so I'm going to teach you 3 different ways of rounding. And they're all a little different, okay? There's round, round up, and round down. Again, best taught in a batch, so you know all 3 of them, and you can think about when to use each one. So round is equals round, open the parentheses, click on the years old with the decimals, comma, tell Excel how many digits you want. So if you want 1 digit, it's going to say 39.90, right? It keeps 1 digit. Or let's do 0 and round it to a whole number, no decimals, okay? So it rounds up in this case, or in this case, it's going to round down, okay? That's traditional rounding, regular rounding, where it's 0.5 and up gets rounded up, 0.4 and below gets rounded down. And then I'm going to tap on this decreased decimal place to hide all those decimals. Okay, round up is equals round up. Click on the years old with the decimals, comma, let's just round it to the, 0 years. Nobody thinks about ages with 39.92. We think about either 39 or 40. We think about the nearest whole number. Okay, so this is automatically going to round everybody up. This one is going to automatically be rounded up, which doesn't make sense to my American brain. But in some countries, like Korea, they do round up. They do birthdays differently. Okay, in America, we do equals round down. I'm not 39.2. I'm 39. Until I turn 40, then I'm 40. That's how I think about ages, okay? We're going to round down this to the nearest whole number. And let me hide the decimals here because they are irrelevant. We don't need to have decimals, okay? Can you see the difference? There's regular round, 0.5 and up is the threshold. That's the one that you probably learned in math class a million years ago. Round up forces everything up. Even a puny little 0.04 is forced up. Round down rounds everything down. Even a 39.9 is rounded down. So it depends on the culture that you're living in and who you're talking to about which one you use. But most of the world uses this one. Korea uses this one. Okay, next up, let's turn these into age categories. So we're going to take let's do this one, the round down age, turn it into categories. Not by hand, not this person's in the 30 to 40 group. No, not by hand, okay? Huge waste of time to do it that way. We're doing something in data called recoding. Okay, recoding is the concept that we're doing. And in Excel and spreadsheet programs like Sheets, there are a couple ways to do it. We can use lookups or if statements. And there are a bunch of age categories. So if you're watching this, you know what if is, you would know that would be a really, really long nested if formula. It would be too long. My brain would break trying to write it. And I don't like writing long nested if formulas. So I'm going to use a lookup. Now in the lookup family, there's a few different types. There's VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, index match. That would be a great video for like another day. We need much, much more time though to go over the intricacies of each one. XLOOKUP is super cool. You might have it on your computer, but maybe not because it's only in newer versions of Excel. So I'm going to use VLOOKUP to make sure that all of you watching this do have access to it. Okay, let me show you though first what I had to set up. It is hidden in the drop-down menus in the recoding section. Okay, so I have some helper cells over here, a little like helper table where you've already decided what are your age brackets going to be, okay? And then lookups connect the tables. It's going to connect this lookup table, reference table, helper table to our participant dataset table over here. Now, this one is a hard one, okay? It's not easy. So you're going to learn it a little bit in this video and then come back in the next video and we'll practice it again. It goes like this. Equals VLOOKUP. You open the parentheses and there's 4 things we have to fill in. And they're all a bunch of Excel jargon. That's why this one's more advanced too, because sometimes people get like a comma or a parentheses in the wrong spot, and then like the whole formula breaks and crashes on you and doesn't work. 4 things to fill in, 4 arguments. The first one's the lookup value, and that is the age. It's like the key that joins the 2 tables. It's this table, like with the helper table that's over there on a different sheet. Okay, so it's this one, comma, the helper table right here. Columns A and B from row 1 down to row 102. I don't think I made up any fictional people who are 100 years old, but like maybe you could go to like 110 or 20 if you needed to. You fill in all the possible answers and what age bracket you want to fill them into. Comma, it's looking for the 39-year-old entry right here. Where is my age? Right here. And when it finds it, it needs to go to the second column of that table and give me the age range. So the third part right here, column index number, that's a 2. It's like you find the age, which column do you give back? A 2. Comma, false. We could have a whole video on true or false or what it means. I'm not going to cover that for now. Just always do false at the end. Okay, this is going to halfway work, but we're going to have to go in and edit it one more time. That's why this formula is like, it's not beginner, okay? I said we were covering spreadsheet fundamentals, but it's a fundamental in the sense that like you have to know lookups to work quickly and accurately with data, but there's a learning curve, right? It's a fundamental skill, super important skill, not an easy skill. Okay, these all work, and at some point, yeah, we're gonna hit some issues. Okay, what this NA error is saying, it's saying we looked for a 16-year-old in your table, and you didn't. There's no 16-year-old, and then you say, well, but I have 16-year-olds. I put 16 in the table. What do you mean it's like not applicable? You can't find the 16-year-old. What we have to do is anytime you see these NAs, click on that cell and then click on the formula bar and look at the colors. Use the color coding to our advantage. That's why it's there, to help us do the troubleshooting. So it's looking up the 16-year-old. Good. As I copied the formula down, the age, the reference age, also moved down. It's relative. It was supposed to move down. That's a good thing. We don't want to keep it stuck on the 39-year-old the whole time. We want it to move down as we go. Okay, so that one, check. That works. And then this one, okay, so it's going to look in A40 to B141. Well, what's going on there? Because look, it's like, but our table doesn't start in A40. Our table starts in A1. And it goes down to B102. Do you see what happened? As you drag the formula down, everything else moves down. It was accidentally, let me click undo for this one. It was accidentally bumping everything down. The Excel lingo is it's using relative cell references, but we need it to use a absolute cell reference. Okay, so what that means is, actually, this one doesn't need to be edited. Who cares about that one? Let's go back and edit the top formula. The top formula is the most important. You want to spend time getting the top formula perfectly right so that you can tap, tap, and it just fills in seamlessly, correctly, without errors all the way down. Okay, so this one, we're going to go back in and edit, and we're editing this part, the helper table, the reference table. And we're going to do something bizarre where we put dollar signs in front of the letters and in front of the numbers. And the dollar sign locks it. The dollar sign says, like, Excel, don't move the reference table. It is always in A1 through B102. Okay, then you can tap, tap, and you click on, well, let's click on this one. Why not? Okay, and we go in and we use the colors, right? We're like, okay, it's looking up, yeah, that cell, that's good. That moved down, it was supposed to. No dollar signs there. We want that one to stay relative. And this one stayed locked, stayed frozen on A1 through B102. We've locked the columns, we've locked the numbers, we've locked the columns this way, like the letters, and the numbers, the rows this way. Okay, exactly what we need. We shouldn't see any NAs in here because everybody has birth dates and ages, therefore no NAs. Okay, that one was trickier, like I said. So I don't expect you to get VLOOKUP the first try. Maybe if you've already learned it or you've been using it for years, like, yeah, of course you should get VLOOKUP on the first try. But if this is your first day ever seeing it, just give yourself some grace, because in the next video, I'm going to show it to you again in a little bit different example so that you can learn it twice and you can get closer to that lookup fluency.